Hello, BookTube. It is Monday morning and I'm filming a reading vlog. I'm not reading anything new, so I'm just not going to repeat titles or anything like that and waste your time. But let's see what reading actually gets done. Okay, I'll check in with you throughout the week. So, salut tout le monde. Sani Bonani. The last clip was from Monday and it's now Wednesday. So, on Tuesday it was a public holiday, so I got some reading done. I was just relaxing with my fiance and there's two books to talk about. So, the first one is Buy Yourself the Damn Flowers by Tam Kaur. And I DNF'd this. I did not finish because of where I am in my life. So I know quite a bit of psychopathology, criticisms of the DSM-5, Jungian psychology. Again, with the clinical terminology, I'm relatively familiar because of just personal reasons and personal experiences. So with Tam Kaur, the audience is for someone where they want to understand things that are happening in their life, but they just want to keep it at a surface level and move on. They don't want to go into as much depth as I did and read the academic studies and all of that. So again, I don't think it's necessarily a bad book. It's just not for me at the stage that I'm at. So, and again, I have very limited time to read, so I just did not finish Buy Yourself the Damn Flowers by Tam Kaur. Yes, that's the correct title. And then the next one was Clock In by Emily Durham, and that's basically navigating the corporate landscape, corporate lingo, debunking a lot of myths that those of us from very working class backgrounds might have had. Things like, oh, keep your head down and your work will speak for itself, and those kinds of things. And Emily Durham just argues for things like visibility is important, being personable, being easy to work with, all of these things. But for me, it's a little bit common sense. It's just something that from lived experience, I've picked certain things up. And so, again, for the point that I'm at in my life, I didn't find Clock In by Emily Durham to be particularly revolutionary. But again, it depends on where you are in your life. It's not that it's a bad book. So yeah, they were just a bit mediocre, a little bit forgettable for me, and I'm off to work now. So bye after gym. So yes, I will just check in with you throughout the rest of the week.
I don't know, the process is keep on updating. So
Hello. I have two more books to talk about. The first one is Insights of an Activist Judge by Albie Sachs, and that's in my work bag or on my work desk somewhere. And then the next one is As by Fire by Jonathan Jansen. So the first one by Albie Sachs, as you can tell from the title, it is an activist judge. And I'm an activist lawyer, so I thought it would be perfect for me because activism is not something that happens in isolation. You need to work in community as an activist. You also need to have a long term view because it's not something that happens immediately. You need to be very diligent. And Albie Sachs has excellent struggle credentials. He obviously worked during the democratic transition. So from 1994 to 1996, there was a move from racial segregation, apartheid regime, to the current democratic dispensation. So Albie Sachs drafted the constitution, he worked with the National Party, he worked with the African National Congress, he had a letter bomb attempts on his life when he was living in Mozambique, and I think it destroyed his hearing and something else. It did leave him partially disabled. And yeah, so as you can imagine, this man is an absolute veteran and he has such a wealth of insight to offer. However, I'm someone who studied law, as I said. So I'm very familiar democratic transition, the constitution, what's in the constitution, how did that work, and what kind of roundtables did they have, the move from legal positivism to legal naturalism, the structure of the courts changing from the, for example, appellate division to now there's an entire hierarchy. There's constitutional court, Supreme Court of Appeal, there's also specialized courts like equality court, land court, labor courts, etc., etc. A lot of that, I'm so familiar with it, it's like the back of my hand. And so reading this book didn't feel particularly revolutionary to me because, again, I'm familiar with Albie Sachs himself, I'm familiar with his judgments, I'm familiar with the legal reasoning, all of these ideas. But I am also of a generation where I'm frustrated with that because, the Constitution made a lot of promises, and the lived reality in South Africa now is very far from that. Albie Sachs gives a lot of nuance that I appreciate. So, for example, he talks about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and how that came to be, how they conceptualized it, the public consultation process that they had before even getting into the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And it gave me insights that I didn't have. He was saying that the far left obviously criticizes it, and he laid out the criticisms, and I thought, ooh, okay, that's my criticisms. And he explained, no, the purpose of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was a very narrow purpose, and it ticked off that box. But the thing is, there need to be other processes, and not, you can't put everything on the back of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And so again, I think this book gave me insights, but it did feel a little bit banal for me. I'm not completely finished with the book yet, so I will definitely gain a bit more, but nothing revolutionary for me. However, if some of this is new to you, if it sounds interesting to you, this book is a compilation of his speeches. It's very accessible to read, so you might find it useful within your own particular journey. If there's something that sparks curiosity for you, read it. It's lovely, it's fantastic. But again, for me, nothing uh, revolutionary, nothing that really shifted my thought processes because of my legal background. This one, As by Fire by Jonathan Jansen. So he is talking about, in the blurb here, what are the real roots of the student protests of 2015 and 2016? Is it actually about fees? Why did the protests turn violent? Where is the government when the buildings burn? Now, he's talking about specifically, there were fees must fall protests in around 2015, 2016. This was around the dawn of when I was going to go to university. So it was, first it was roads must fall. So there was a colonial statue when people smeared human feces all over it and said these colonial statues need to leave and that we need to have a decolonization of our education syllabus, which these are very important dialogues to have. We need to shift from just seeing ourselves as these colonial victims and take our human agency by its hands. The scholarship that was cited included Frantz Fanon and again a lot of these decolonial and anti-colonial scholars, which I think is absolutely fantastic dialogues that need to happen. And specifically within universities within South Africa, this is a place where people can question ideas and that kind of thing. So Jonathan Jansen's not against decolonizing things. He's not against questioning things. He's not against these dialogues happening within universities. So it became roads must fall, then it became fees must fall, because there were also very real financial difficulties that students are facing. South Africa's unemployment rate is one of the highest in the world. I think we are number one or number two in the world. So graduates come into university with so much hope, thinking that an education for me is a way to a brighter future. However, that has not necessarily been the case. We do have a lot of unemployed graduates as well. So the question is, okay, there are skills mismatches. So government has set out critical skills lists and have said, please study things like agriculture, IT, engineering. These are the things that are most likely to get you into employment. So those are dialogues that are happening. Things like fees must fall. There's also a lot of student financial aid, like NSFAS, National Student Financial Aid Scheme. I think that's what it stands for. And yeah, so as much as this book is like 10 years old, it was published in 2017, I did feel it's important to engage. And Jonathan Jansen explains things in an extreme amount of depth because he himself was a university vice chancellor at the time of these protests. So he was interviewing students, he had them in his offices, he would attend protests, he attended roundtables with other vice chancellors and other universities, and he was really trying to understand and gather information from all sides. What are students demanding? What are they frustrated about? What are the other university heads seeing in terms of pure finances? Because Adam Habib, who was at Wits, and even when I studied at University of the Witwatersrand, Adam Habib was saying, the government subsidized education, like 70% of it was subsidized. So in terms of paying fees, parents only had to, or students had to only pay that last 30%. But now government is only subsidizing 35%. But then there's also inflation. So you have to ask for parents and students to be paying. So again, how must fees fall when it's just not financially possible? We understand that there's financial exclusion of students, but how do you bridge that gap? So that is something that obviously the heads of the universities were grappling with. How do we meet student needs and student demands within the financial reality that we have? And even if we admit so many students into university, is it going to lead to better outcomes for them in terms of employment? Not necessarily. Um, we have unemployed medical doctors sitting in this country because of various administrative issues and that kind of thing. So, again, it's just something that I feel is important to engage with because, I constantly ask myself, what can I do in terms of that? How can I mentor law students? I'm someone now who's in the law field with, X amount of experience. What does that mean? How can I coach students? And interestingly enough, I'm talking about that now. Within my workplace, we have had a roster of students coming in, and that's something that I did try and help facilitate to make sure that they got a sense of what the workplace is like and how they can bridge that gap between qualification and experience and the expectations that they have as well, because students are sometimes sold dreams that are not necessarily true, and it is important to be very factual with young people. So yeah, I constantly question and I ask myself, okay, again, this is something where I've been told, like, you yourself are still young. Like, I'm 28 now, but I still owe it to society to engage with these issues. So yeah, I don't know that there's necessarily anything else that I would say about this book. I'm definitely not done with it. You can see where the bookmark is. But again, it is a bit of an old book. I wouldn't say that the discussions here are outdated, by no means. But yeah, I think it's those issues of unemployment, of accessibility. Thabo Mbeki, under his administration, so he was the former president of South Africa. He was a couple presidents ago, but he collapsed a lot of the TVET institutions, so technicons. These were technical colleges where they would teach things like plumbing, electrical skills, motor mechanic skills, and he collapsed them. There were a lot of different smaller institutions into the larger institutions, and it made it unaffordable for a lot of people. So within South Africa, we need to have these mindset shifts where we encourage students to learn trades and to learn skills, because those are important. And I think if we as a society devalue those things and we discourage youth from doing that, then we are creating unemployment. you know so anyway, that's this book, and that's what it got me thinking about. Yeah, on this channel, I believe that reading goes beyond just performance. We don't just think you read something passively and then you put down the book and you forget everything that you've read. I think you take your books and you allow it to shift your mindset and the way that you see the world. I just think that that's very important. So I specifically seek out books that will get me thinking and get the gears turning within my brain. Yeah, but these are the books that I want to talk about at the moment. I'm very excited for some of the books on my nightstand. I would have talked about them in halls and that kind of thing as well. But this one specifically, The Trouble with Africa, Why Foreign Aid Isn't Working. And it talks about, again, this is like someone who has worked within Africa and he's got a lot of experience. And he talks about the gaps that foreign aid is not filling. Because, of course, if foreign aid is coming from someone who lives in the United States and they look at Africa, they might think, okay, let me build a school, a church, let me meet the need for water and build a water pump, these kinds of things. I think that it's very well meaning and it's very well intentioned, but someone from the US doesn't know the reality of Africa on the ground. So there needs to be that translation between people on the ground, what are the actual needs that they are finding. There needs to be that communication between the foreign aid and the people on the ground so that the foreign aid can be very meaningful. I mean, we've got things like there are women in villages where they stop child marriages because, again, girls are being pulled out of school to be married to men who are 40 years old. The child is 12 and the man is 40, and that's a social problem. It's not necessarily only an economic problem. So, and obviously socio-economic, these things are connected. But again, we need to really understand the problems in depth and then address those problems meaningfully. You can't necessarily throw money at a problem and then think that the problem will disappear if that money is not used in a meaningful manner, I think. So yeah, these kinds of books, it really gets my gears turning and I get so excited and I get so passionate But the reason why I started a booktube channel is because I don't really have anyone to talk to about all of these things and all of these ideas that, you know, I think are fascinating. You probably think they are fascinating, but maybe people in your life also roll their eyes and think, I don't know why you turning the gears in your brain like this. Like, why do you do this to yourself? Just come and watch TV with me. So yeah, these are the books at the moment that I'm going to talk about. And yeah, tell me what you're reading. Tell me what else you would like to see on my channel. What is sparking curiosity for you, that kind of thing.